Right now, tragedy in Shreveport. A mass shooting has left 8 children dead. Police say the shooting happened early this morning on West 79th Street in the Cedar Grove neighborhood.
Some people don't come back from their demons. 8 children are dead. 7 of them share his last name. The youngest hadn't even started school. The oldest was just finding her way through middle childhood. And the man who killed them, who stood in that house before dawn on April 19th, 2026, moving room to room, wasn't a stranger. He was their father. Police would later say that Elkins shot most of the children in the head and had probably caught them still in their sleep. And when he was done, he walked out, carjacked a car, and led police on a chase across parish lines. He wasn't running from guilt. He was running from the consequences of a plan he'd already seen through to the end. Before we go any further, I need you to stop and do something. If you care about stories like this, stories where children don't get the headlines they deserve, where families fall apart in ways that should never be possible, hit that like button, subscribe, click the bell, because the only way this channel keeps telling these stories is if you're here. These babies deserve to be remembered. Don't scroll past them. Now let me take you into what actually happened in Shreveport, Louisiana, because there's so much that the headlines didn't tell you. The attack began at approximately 5 o'clock in the morning. Shamar Elkins, 31 years old, shot his wife multiple times at a residence on Harrison Street, striking her in the face. She survived, but he wasn't done. He got in a car and drove just a short distance to a home on West 79th Street. He shot a second adult woman and 8 children, killing all 8. 7 were his own. The 8th child, a cousin, was someone else's baby who happened to be there that night. A 13-year-old boy survived by jumping from the roof of the home, sustaining broken bones but no gunshot wounds. He was able to call for help. Think about that. A teenager broke bones jumping off a roof to survive his own family. The Caddo Parish Coroner's Office confirmed the victims as Jayla Elkins, 3, Shayla Elkins, 5, Kayla Pugh, 6, Layla Pugh, 7, Marcaden Pugh, 10, Soraya Snow, 11, Kadarian Snow, 6, and Braylon Snow, 5. 5 girls, 3 boys. The oldest was 11. The youngest had just turned 3. These are not statistics. These are children who had Easter photos, who had recitals, who had nicknames, who had favorite meals. Their mother, Shaniqua Elkins, had frequently posted about her growing family on social media, sharing videos of recitals and academic achievements, including a daughter's recognition as most improved student. This was a household full of life, full of noise and laughter, and homework and bedtime routines. Until it wasn't. The Caddo Parish District Attorney's Office released a statement. What began as a domestic dispute has ended in irreversible harm. That line is technically accurate, but it doesn't even scratch the surface of what was building inside Shamar Elkins for months before that morning. Because this didn't just begin as a domestic dispute. This had roots, warnings, signs that the people around him saw and didn't know how to stop. Let me tell you who Shamar Elkins was before April 19th, because understanding the man matters if we're ever going to understand how something like this becomes possible. Elkins previously served in the Louisiana Army National Guard from August 2013 to August 2020 as a signal support system specialist and a fire support specialist. He never deployed and left the National Guard as a private. He later went to work for UPS. By all surface appearances, he was a working-class father trying to hold his life together. His co-worker at UPS, Willie Vasher, described him as a seemingly normal family man, but with an unusual tick. Elkins would pull out his hair throughout the day due to stress, a habit so persistent it had left a bald spot on his head. That's not a man who's fine. That is a man whose body is screaming what his mouth won't say. He had a prior criminal conviction in Caddo District Court. In 2019, he was arrested on charges of illegal use of weapons and carrying a firearm on school property. A police report from that incident revealed that Elkins pulled a 9mm handgun from his waistband and fired 5 shots at a vehicle after the driver allegedly pointed a gun at him. One of the bullets was later found near a school where children were playing. He pleaded guilty. He got 18 months of probation, and the firearm charge was dismissed. Here's what that means. A man with documented impulse control issues, a history of pulling a weapon, and firing in a neighborhood near children, served no prison time. And the system that was supposed to track him, supposed to flag him, let him walk. Shreveport Police Chief Wayne Smith confirmed that Elkins' name was already in the police department's system prior to the massacre. He was already known, already on the radar. And yet, but the criminal record is only one layer. What was happening inside the household is where this story gets darker and more painful. Elkins and his wife Shaniqua Pugh were in the process of divorcing. She had filed for divorce over infidelity, according to his brother-in-law Troy Brown. The two had been together for years, had built a family across multiple children, and now that family was fracturing. Here's what you need to understand about the psychology of what was happening. Before they were even married, Elkins had told Pugh he would kill her, their kids, and himself if she ever tried to leave him. That sentence has to land. Before the wedding, before those children were born, he said, "If you go, none of us survive." That is not a warning made in anger. That is a man telling you exactly who he is and what his framework for love looks like. Ownership, control, or nothing. And Shaniqua stayed. She built a life. She had babies. She photographed their milestones. And at some point, she found a way out. She filed for divorce over infidelity. She was doing the brave thing, the right thing. The two were due in court the very next morning, Monday, April 20th, to sign the divorce papers. He never let that happen. On Easter Sunday, 2 weeks before the shooting, Elkins reached out to his mother and stepfather. He told them tearfully that he wanted to end his life and that Shaniqua wanted a divorce. His stepfather, Marcus Jackson, tried to encourage him, tried to tell him he could get through it. And Elkins looked at him and said something that should have stopped everyone in the room cold. Some people don't come back from their demons. That was not metaphor. That was a man giving you the ending before the story was finished. For days after posting that Easter photo with his children, the one where he wrote, "Happy Easter, had a wonderful time at church for the first time with all my kids, what a blessed day," he reposted an inspirational prayer that began, "Dear God, today I ask you to help me guard my mind and my emotions." He posted that on April 9th, 9 days before the massacre. There is something almost unbearable about reading those social media posts in hindsight. The Easter photo, the prayer, the image of his eldest daughter eating a burger the day before, a caption full of laughing emojis. These aren't the posts of a man with nothing to lose. They read like a man in agony trying to hold on and losing, like someone performing normalcy, while everything inside him was collapsing. Elkins had recently stayed at the local VA hospital to get treatment for mental health issues, according to family members. He came home appearing happy, Brown said. But what does happy mean when someone has already decided what they're going to do? Behavioral experts have a term for this. They call it the calm before. When someone who's been in invisible turmoil suddenly appears settled, unburdened, sometimes that's because they resolve the internal conflict, not by choosing to live, but by making a different choice altogether. He also had a prior DWI conviction in 2016, adding to a picture of a man whose relationship with self-control had been fraying for years. The hair pulling, the weapons charge, the DWI, the suicidal ideation, the threats made before marriage, the VA stay, the prayer posts. None of these things, taken alone, necessarily predicts mass murder, but together they form the outline of a man in a slow spiral, with access to firearms he was legally prohibited from owning and a deadline approaching. The divorce papers were due to be signed Monday morning. That was a clock he couldn't stop. That Saturday afternoon, his neighbor Freddie Montgomery walked home from a visit across the street and saw Elkins sitting on the front porch. Children played in the yard. The two men waved at each other. Children in the yard. When Montgomery woke the next morning and opened his curtains, he saw law enforcement entering the house across the street. The police presence kept growing. He approached an officer and asked if the scene was bad. The officer said yes. "Are we talking fatalities?" Montgomery asked. "Multiple," the officer said. "Loss of children?" Montgomery asked. "Multiple," the officer said. That exchange. Read it again, because that is the sound of an entire community trying to process something that the human brain wasn't built to accept. Multiple children, dead, Across the street from where you just saw a man wave, Mac London, 71, who has lived on the same block since 1991, said nothing like this had ever happened on that street. It was bad, he said. I hate that it happened to those kids. Inside the home, the scene investigators found defies easy description. 7 of the children were found inside the home. The 8th was found dead on a back roof. A child made it to the roof. Think about how much terror that requires. A child who woke up to gunshots, who heard what was happening, who made it out a window and onto the roof, and didn't make it far enough. Investigators are looking into how Elkins obtained the assault-style pistol used in the shooting, given that his prior firearms conviction should have prohibited him from legally owning a gun. The ATF has been called in to investigate. That question is not a small one. A man the law said could not have a weapon had one anyway, and used it on his sleeping children. The families gathered outside the house on West 79th Street that Sunday. Both sides, the Pughs, the Elkinses, standing together in a grief that had no language. City Councilwoman Tabitha Taylor broke down in tears at the news conference. I'm going to ask the community, along with prayer, with every mental health consultant counselor that is out here, this family and this community needs you. She said, I need you, because how do we get through this? That question isn't rhetorical. It is a real, unanswered question sitting in the middle of Shreveport right now. Elkins' brother-in-law, Troy Brown, lost a son in the massacre. His wife, Pugh's sister, fractured bones jumping off the roof trying to escape.
I don't know how to act because I've lost 8 parts of me because I loved each and every one of them like they were my own, and I took care of them like they were my own.
His daughter, the 12-year-old who also jumped, survived with scratches. And his son, he's gone. I'm never going to get to throw the football with him again, Brown said through tears. There are no words for what it means to grieve, while also being part of the family of the man who did this. To be connected by blood to both the horror and the loss. That is a psychological wound that does not heal on any ordinary timeline. Pastor Marty T. Johnson, Sr. of nearby St. Gabriel Community Baptist Church, who owns one of the homes where the shootings occurred, said he plans to hold a prayer vigil and help the family bury the children. 8 funerals, 8 small caskets, one community trying to find a way forward that doesn't require them to understand something that will never be fully understandable. Shreveport Councilman Grayson Boucher said it plainly. We've more than doubled our homicide in the city of Shreveport because of one act of domestic violence. One act, 8 children. So let me ask you something, and I want you to sit with this, not rush past it. Shamar Elkins told his stepfather, some people don't come back from their demons 2 weeks before he killed 8 children. He had sought mental health treatment. He had a history of weapons violations. He had threatened his wife with exactly this outcome years before it happened. The system knew his name. His family knew his pain. At what point does warning become intervention? At what point does he seem to be struggling become we have to act now? Because every single piece of the story is a system that failed. Not just Shaniqua, not just those 8 children, but itself. And here's the question I can't stop thinking about. Shaniqua Pugh was doing what survivors are told to do. She filed for divorce. She went through the legal system. She had a court date. She was leaving, and he made sure she couldn't take the children with her. Was this punishment? Was this control exercised one final time? Taking the things she loved most, the children she documented with pride on every platform, as a way of saying, if I can't have this life, neither can you? Or was this, in some twisted psychological framework, what he called not coming back from his demons, a man so fused with his identity as a father that losing that family felt like losing himself entirely? I don't think those 2 things are mutually exclusive. And that is the most disturbing part of all of this. Because Jayla was 3, Shayla was 5, Braylon was 5, Kadarian was 6, Kayla was 6, Layla was 7, Marcaden was 10, Soraya was 11. They didn't break up the marriage. They didn't choose sides. They were just children, asleep in a house that was supposed to be safe. Tell me in the comments, what do you think could have stopped this? What piece of the system failed these children the most? Because this community is asking that question right now, and they deserve more than silence. If this story moved you, If you believe these 8 babies deserve more than a headline, subscribe to 3 a.m. Files, hit the bell, share this video. Because the only way we keep shining light into the darkest corners is if you're standing here with us. We'll be back